Hey guys, it's Kevin, State and Co Truck Insurance, and in today's video we'll talk about Geico Truck Insurance. And yes, the lizard finally got into for hire trucking insurance space. And Geico's always been writing business auto and contractors, so think of like consultants, retail, salespeople, real estate insurance agents. That was always available, as well as light contractors such as plumbers, electricians, home builders, landscapers. But as of last year, Geico started expanding nationwide in for hire trucking insurance. And as of today, they are pretty much, I would say, in 30 plus states. They're not yet in some of the states to highlight would be North Carolina. They're not yet in Kentucky or West Coast, California. New York is another state, but they're pretty much in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Texas. Midwest would be Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin. They're not in Michigan. And yes, they are writing trucking insurance. And many of you probably know of Geico's affiliates such as Berkshire Hathaway, National Indemnity, AmGuard, or by Berk, which again, all those companies fall under Geico umbrella. But Geico Truck Insurance is a different platform from Nyco and Berkshire, and it's truly Geico, and the company's got A++ AM Best rating, and yes, those policies are different from your Nyco or Berkshire. They will write new ventures. They will write for hire transportation, general freight, dry van, flatbeds, auto haulers, hot shots, refrigerated, steel haulers, agricultural, heavy machinery, oversized, livestock, farming. They're not into UIIA yet, so if you need that intermodal endorsement, they do not have that. And then some other specialty markets would be dump trucks, your dirt, sand, and gravel haulers, garbage haulers, which not even Progressive offers that, as well as logging and log transportation, scrap metal, recycling services, coal haulers. All that is offered by Geico Truck Insurance. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the light commercial is still being offered, so it's your contractors, professional businesses. That's still on the table. And for commercial trucking, yes, their policies come with federal filings, BMC 91. Policies can be up to $1 million, commercial auto liability. You can add additional coverages such as cargo up to 250,000, general liability, trailer interchange, non-owned trailer physical damage, hired and non-owned auto endorsements can be added, waiver of subrogation can be added. So anything that typical trucking operation would need, Geico offers that. One big difference from Berkshire Hathaway, they will accept drivers from other states. So if the company is based in Georgia and you have drivers in Florida and Tennessee, that is fine with Geico, which would be pretty much a no-go with Berkshire. The submission portal on the agency side is it's a completely different product from Berkshire's. Easy to work with, easy to use. They do pull, they do soft credit check. Again, similar to Progressive, depending on driver's credit history, that's how policy is going to be rated. But they don't ask for the loss runs. Of course, they pull MBRs, they pull clue reports, but no loss runs needed, no IFTAs needed. So for any fleet up to 9 power units, It's a very simple, streamlined process to get a quote generated. An agent can send you a quote, probably same day. Literally, it just takes to input in the system, and then based on the business history, they do check safer. So once the DOT number is plugged in, um, their portal is automatically checking SMS scores, safety scores. So if there's some history that's not acceptable to Geico, they will just automatically decline that quote. But then I would say they have a high level of tolerance, so kind of similar to Progressive, and maybe perhaps even a little bit more flexible than Progressive, depending on the state. They will approve you, they'll give you a quote. Price wise, again, it really depends. You have to be at least 2 years in business to get the best possible pricing. But then, yes, Geico will write new ventures. So you can be a brand new operator starting trucking. And up until then, it used to be just Progressive, perhaps Cover Whale in some states, Berkshire Hathaway, and then Canal and Great West. They would, write limited new ventures. And for Canal and Great West, the drivers need to have at least 2 years CDL experience. But with Geico, if it's a new venture or less than 2 years business experience, a driver can be with just a few weeks CDL experience. So yes, they will accept any driver. And of course, if it's a box truck or a Sprinter cargo van, those under 26,000 pounds, they don't need CDL. And Geico, Geico will quote and write those policies. The claims processing is 24/7. From that aspect, they're probably a top tier insurance company that one could be placed with in trucking. They do not offer any roadside assistance for trucks that are 26,000 pounds, so that's not yet an option, but it's probably come down the road. They do not need you to connect your ELD or telematics like some insurance companies like Cover Whale. You have to connect your ELD. Nirvana Insurance, we've seen you have to connect your ELD, and a lot of that underwriting score is based on the data that comes from the telematics providers. With Geico, none of that is requested. They do give discounts for business experience. So yes, the longer you've been in business, the better the pricing is going to be. Same thing with the CDL experience. The longer your CDL experience is going to be reflected in the pricing. As far as your MBR and driving history, I would say similar to Progressive. They will accept almost anybody except maybe perhaps DUI, but then multiple violations are okay. Multiple accidents are okay, but all of that is going to be reflected in pricing. So, somebody with a perfect clean MBR and no losses, no claims might have just had a quote recently around $15,000 for somebody who's been 2 years in business. But then of course, if you have violations and the DOT safety score is not clean, that price range can go up to $25,000-$30,000 per truck per year. So yes, in general, from what we've seen so far, it's anywhere from like 12,000 up to 30,000 per truck per year. And again, it all still depends on the state. It still depends how long you've been in business and all those quality checks I've mentioned earlier. A lot of insurance companies, they don't favor the big metropolitan areas. So cities such as Atlanta, Miami, Houston, Dallas, those would be, rated higher because there's, way more claims and accidents in those particular metropolitan areas. But they will insure in Florida, which many insurance companies stay away from that state, and especially South Florida with Geico. Yep, they'll quote, in Miami or Southeast, Southwest Florida. It just might not, sometimes be the best, cheapest pricing. But other than that, it's pretty exciting and unique to see such a big insurance company to get into trucking market. And I think their intent for now is to compete with Progressive, Cover Whale, They're also competing with their own affiliates, Berkshire Hathaway and National Indemnity, which also known as NICO. One difference is that they do not care if, let's say, there's a renewal being quoted and that policy is coming from NICO. Usually, if it's Berkshire or NICO, they will not compete with each other, but Geico, yep, they can, take that policy and quote and perhaps even offer a better premium than their sister companies. So, that's in a nutshell. Again, we haven't been working with them for a long time yet. Just got appointed last month, so it's been now about 30 days. The verdict, I would say, is still to come. We're seeing some interesting results, and in some states they're actually very competitive, especially for those that have been less than 2 years in business, that might not have that perfect safety score, or might have some some blemishes on their MBR, and they're kind of filling that void, because in some of those states like Mississippi, Alabama, Progressive, Berkshire, maybe Coverwell, those were the only players for less than 2 years in business. And now with Geico coming on board, they're aggressive, they're quoting, they're kind of learning as they go. From what I heard, they hired a bunch of progressive people to help them with the whole underwriting process and kind of behind the scenes. And I think I presume they're tapping into their affiliates, Berkshire and NICO, to have some of that knowledge and learning. But then again, from what they're telling, it's different. They don't really use that as a foundation, and it's gonna be interesting. So more to come. We'll keep you posted. But for now, if anybody's interested in quote with Geico commercial trucking, give us a shout, and we'd be more than happy to, run those quotes for you. So stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.